everyone, and welcome to Not Just Numbers, Honest Conversations with a Financial Advisor and Lawyer. I am Madison Demora, and I am here with Mike Gary. Mike is a financial advisor and a CFP practitioner and the founder and the CEO of Yardley Wealth Management. He is also an estate planning lawyer, and his law firm is Yardley Estate Planning. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Maddie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing today?
Good, good. We have a
Awesome.
green sweater day going on in the office.
Yep, yep. Go birds, right?
Go birds.
Go birds. All right. So, as the year winds down, a lot of us start reflecting on what we're grateful for, and that often inspires us to give back. Today, we're talking about how to make your generosity go even further for the organizations you care about and for your own financial plan.
That's right, Madison. Charitable giving is first and foremost about generosity, about supporting causes that matter and creating positive change. With a little planning, you can make your dollar stretch further, supporting more good work while also being thoughtful about taxes and long-term goals.
Exactly. So today we'll talk about why December is such a powerful time to give and how new tax laws might shape charitable strategies and some of the ways you can structure your gifts, whether that's through an IRA, donor advised fund, or charitable trust, to make them as impactful as possible. Mike, let's start with why so much giving happens now. Every December, Americans donate billions of dollars, nearly one third of all charitable contributions for the end of the year. Nonprofits see up to 31% of their online donations this month, and almost half of that comes from the final week. Why is that?
Maddie, I think it's a mix of emotion, tradition, and timing. December has become synonymous with giving, from Giving Tuesday to end of year appeals. It's a time when people feel grateful and reflective. In 2024, Giving Tuesday alone raised over $3.6 billion, up 16% from the year before. And people generally want to make a difference while they're celebrating the year's accomplishments.
And I think that's what makes this season so meaningful. It's about impact. But, Mike, as a financial professional, we can also help people channel that generosity in ways that make each dollar work harder, not just for today, but for the long term.
Exactly. The intent doesn't change. It's still about giving. But by understanding the rules and tools available, donors can often give more or give smarter without spending more out of pocket.
Charitable giving is woven into the fabric of American life. In 2024, Americans donated over 590 billion, a 6.3% increase from the previous year. What does that say about how we give as a nation?
Maddie, I think it shows how deeply generosity is woven into our culture. Individuals make up about two-thirds of all charitable contributions, and that generosity spans generations. Younger donors often focus on measurable outcomes, while older generations tend to think about legacy and continuity.
And we're also seeing massive wealth transfers on the horizon, right?
That's right. Cerulli and Associates projects about $124 trillion, that's trillion with a T, will transfer through 2048, and roughly 18 trillion of that is expected to go to charity. That's not just giving, that's reshaping philanthropy for the future. It's families defining the kind of impact they want their wealth to have and making charitable goals part of their overall estate and financial planning.
There are so many worthy causes out there that deciding where to give can feel overwhelming. Where do you suggest people start?
Start with your values. Identify the causes that reflect what matters most to you, whether that's education, the environment, healthcare, the arts. Then research the organizations doing the best work in that space. Sites like Charity Navigator, GuideStar, and the BBB Wise Giving Alliance are great tools for assessing transparency, effectiveness, and financial health.
And sometimes personal connection makes a big difference too, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, right? Like volunteering, attending events, or meeting with nonprofit leadership can give you confidence that your donations are being used effectively. When your heart and head align, giving becomes not just a transaction, but a meaningful part of your financial life.
All right, Mike, let's shift gears and talk about how giving interacts with tax planning. Starting in 2026, the new rule under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, will change how charitable deductions work. What should donors know?
So the rules are designed to encourage broad participation while keeping the system balanced. Non-itemizers will be, which is the vast majority of people, will be able to deduct up to $1,000 for individuals or $2,000 for married couples filing jointly. That's a win for people who want to give, even if they don't itemize. For those who do itemize, though, deductions will only apply to the portion of contributions that exceed 0.5% of adjusted gross income. And for top earners, the deduction will be capped at 35% of the gift's value, even if the marginal rate is higher.
So it's really about broadening participation but tempering the benefit at the highest levels.
Exactly. The idea is to balance inclusivity and fairness. But for large donors, timing becomes key. Making gifts before 2026 could allow you to take advantage of the current rules.
And that's where coordination between your advisor, CPA, and estate attorney really matters, making sure your timing and strategy align with your goals. Let's get into some specific strategies. What are some ways people can give that help both their favorite cause and their financial picture?
There are several great ones. Qualified charitable distributions. For anyone aged 70 and a half or older, a QCD lets you donate up to $108,000 per year directly from your IRA to charity, $216,000 per couple. It counts towards your required minimum distribution, but doesn't increase your taxable income. That can really help reduce Medicare premiums and limit how much of your Social Security is taxed.
So it's really a win-win. You meet your RMD requirements and lower your taxable income, all while supporting causes you care about.
Exactly. The next is donating appreciated securities. If you've held investments that have gone up in value, donating those instead of cash lets you avoid capital gains tax and still deduct the fair market value if you itemize. It's a smart way to turn the portfolio growth into social good. Just start early. Custodians often have strict year-end deadlines. And donor advised funds, these allow you to make large contributions in one year, take the deduction immediately, and then distribute grants to charities over time. It's great for people who want to be strategic but aren't ready to pick specific organizations yet. These two are very similar in that both cases you would donate uh, securities or funds that have gone up over time that you have unrealized gains for in your brokerage account. And if you have a specific charity and they have the ability to handle it, you can donate those specific stocks right to the charity. But if you're not sure who you want to give to, or they don't have that notification, well, then you could use the donor advised fund. It'd be a way to set that up and take some time to give your gifts. And if you want to give more than one gift, it makes that much, much easier.
So, speaking about donor advised funds, I know a lot of families use them to involve kids or grandkids in giving decisions as well.
They do. It's a wonderful teaching tool for next generation philanthropy. So other things are charitable trusts. So, that's for more complex giving. Charitable trusts offer ways to combine income, legacy, and philanthropy. A charitable remainder trust provides income for life for a set term to an individual, with the remainder going to charity. But a charitable lead trust does the reverse. It pays income to a charity for a certain number of years and then transfer the remaining assets to your heirs. These can create lasting legacies and reduce estate or gift taxes. But they require careful structuring, which is why professional guidance is key. They are pretty complicated things. Next up is bundling deductions. Even simpler strategies can make a difference. Bundling or bunching charitable deductions allows you to give 2 or more years worth of deductions in one year, helping you exceed the standard deduction threshold. To kind of explain this a little bit more, Maddie, say you generally give like five or $10,000 per year to charity, but that's more than what you could do with the new act. Um, but it's not enough to do one of the more advanced strategies. You could say, well, it's been a really good year. How about I'm going to do 3 or 5 years worth of bundling? I'll do all the gifts I'm going to make for the next couple of years. I'm going to do it right now, this year, where that kind of gifting is better. It's just really being thoughtful and planning, right, to make your gift have more impact for you and the charity.
Um, Amazing. So you're giving the same amount, just more strategically.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, charitable giving really isn't separate from financial planning as part of it.
That's right. A well designed plan makes sure your generosity aligns with your long term goals and values while maintaining financial independence. And when you involve your professionals early, your advisor, CPA, and estate attorney, you can coordinate giving strategies that make sense across your investment, tax, and legacy plans.
And it's also a great way to bring family into those conversations, helping the next generation understand not just wealth, but purpose.
Exactly. Philanthropy can be an incredible way to pass down values as well as assets.
Generosity is one of the most meaningful expressions of gratitude. And when it's paired with thoughtful planning, it can become one of the most powerful tools in your financial life.
Absolutely. By giving strategically, whether through QCDs, appreciated securities, DAFs, or trust, you can amplify the impact of your gifts while keeping your own financial house in order.
If you're considering year-end giving, now is the perfect time to start. Transfers and processing deadlines can sneak up quickly, so reach out to your advisor or CPA soon.
Thoughtful giving benefits everyone, you, your family, and the causes you care about.
We hope today's conversation helps you give with both your heart and intention this season. Today, we're joined by Christian LeFer, founder and CEO of Instant Nonprofit, the highest rated service for launching IRS-approved 501c3 organizations. Christian and his team have helped start over 5,000 nonprofits, empowering founders, families, and mission-driven leaders to turn purpose into real-world impact, all while maximizing tax efficiency and legacy potential. Drawing from his personal experience growing up in a nonprofit household and decades of work in fundraising and social enterprise, Christian brings a deeply strategic perspective on what he calls wealth with purpose. He believes nonprofit formation can be one of the most powerful tools for tax strategy, philanthropy, and creating family legacy that lasts for generations. Christian, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, Christian, you've helped launch over 5,000 nonprofits through Instant Nonprofit, but your journey started from personal experience. What inspired you to make it easier for others to do good and start their own 501c3?
Well, when I was about 8 years old, I was outside playing with my friends in the backyard in northern New Jersey, where, of course, now there's a mall, and they paved over those woods. But I got called into the house. My mom had taken my little sister to the doctor, and while she appeared physically normal, there were no abnormalities or any indications. She wasn't developing verbally at almost 4 years old, and so she got her checked out. And turns out my sister's developmentally disabled. Grew up around Special Olympics because of that, where she quickly became a track star, and she was famous for getting second place because she's so good at relating to people. She would round the corner to get to the finish line and easily be winning. But then she'd run over and high five all her fans in the stands, and they'd have to yell for her to get back on the track. So I have a lot of, second place podium pictures of my sister, but just shows you the kind of human she is. And so I grew up around people who want to make the world better or help people get to where they want to go and live a full life, regardless of their disabilities or whatever. And I just thought that's how things worked in the world. And I still do believe that. And fast forward, we all have our sort of origin story, what makes us who we are. And then we later discover how we express that, and usually completely by accident. I went to start a nonprofit around 2009, 2010. And I just became morally outraged at how difficult it was. And when I called into the IRS and said, well, I've got the application part and that my partners were going to do some of the other activities, I could almost hear the chuckling in the back room in the IRS where, don't worry, this is going to take a year. You've got plenty of time that you can do other things while this is being approved. And I was like, wait a minute. If you want to start an LLC or a regular company, it doesn't take it's not that difficult. Why would it be so hard to do good? And so I called about 30 extensions north and south of the number that they gave me for my agent, because of course he was never there. And I curated a process and asked, anyone that would answer the phone, I'd say, why is this so difficult? Why does it take so long to approve? What are all the reasons that people typically get delayed or denied? And I curated what I call the love letter to a bureaucrat. Like, what if I sent in the perfect file into the IRS, and that would just make that person's day and let them understand we care about their job too, not just the customer. Well, I didn't have customers then. This was just a couple of volunteer jobs at the beginning. And lo and behold, I got a 38 or 42, one of the two, 38-day approval in the face of what would normally be a year. And that was astounding. I was just blown away. And it was because I had carefully placed everything that person could want, table of contents, et cetera. And now 5,000 later, I went from blogger to businessman. And, it's been wonderful to wake up and help people do this every day.
It's mind-boggling that it would ordinarily take a year to do that. And I love the example of the LLC because I just helped my wife's cousin the other day. I maybe took 15 minutes to set up an LLC, not including the organization agreement. But yeah, it takes no time at all to set that up. You don't have to interact with anybody to do that. Why is a nonprofit so hard to set up? Or like why did you have to go through what you went through to do it? And it's amazing that you thought to do it.
Yeah, well, I don't like to take no for an answer, and I never believe that bureaucracy or, outside challenges should keep people from like expressing their gifts in this world. And
Right.
we all have these little things we have to deal with. If we want to drive, we have to go to motor vehicle, and it's a little painful. But with this particular one, I found out as I researched, and certainly in talking to over 10,000, probably close to 15,000 people about their project and helping in some way, whereas I've done over 5,000 end to end done for you. A lot of people would give up on their dream or defer their dream to start a nonprofit. Many times, people who come to us are already doing something good. They are taking a few animals and finding them foster homes. And so they eventually need some crates and some food and et cetera. And every supermarket has a budget to where they can donate things to nonprofits, right? So there are all these needs being met all over the world. And I didn't want to see anyone who wants to contribute to the world be, have the impediment of the bureaucracy. So some of the things that get in the way of people moving forward on this is you have to create bylaws, and they're a little bit different. These are board governed versus owner governed organizations, right? There are no shareholders in a nonprofit, so that's a little bit different. There are extra provisions and documents that you have to include besides that, like a conflict of interest policy. And there's just some special provisions that when Congress created 501c3 or the 501 category in general, there are a few different types, they made it with two distinct advantages. And this speaks to your audience, and especially one of them. One is tax deductibility for donations, right? If somebody donates and they make $100,000 top line on their W-2 or 1099, they're reducing that by the amount that they give in charity. And if that kicks you down to a separate tax bracket that's taxed at a lower rate, you actually can, in many cases, if you're close to that break, you can give $5,000 to a nonprofit and save more than that in taxes, right? It really becomes an advantage. And then the other thing is the entity itself isn't taxed. So if you pile up money at the end of the year, that's called profit in a for-profit. If you pile up money at the end of the year in a nonprofit corporation with tax exempt status, that can roll over from year to year and even build into some of these massive funds like you hear with the Harvard endowment or some of these other.
Right.
So that was pretty much, those are the advantages, but I didn't feel people should have to wait so long or have this mysterious process to get the result they were looking for.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, you call the 501c3 a tool of titans. What do you mean by that? And how can nonprofit formation be used strategically to tax and wealth management?
Yeah, so we all are, and it's becoming more and more mainstream, right, for people to hear about how to use a trust, for example, to mitigate tax impact at when you pass along your estate. And people have different reasons for building wealth and different reasons for the use of money in general. It's not really to have the money, it's what does that money get you? And so if you're strategizing, whether it's right now in your business or long term in your estate planning, there are different purposes that you would use a trust or you would use potentially a 501c3. And one of them is just be able to have assets under your control or under the control of the family or people who believe in your mission. Because often when we have enough for ourselves, right, we start thinking about, well, what do we want to leave behind? And how do we want to leave maybe a little bit of our DNA or a little bit of our social DNA behind so that we can impact the world in the way that we believe is important. And a nonprofit can be controlled by a board that you can appoint, right? You can choose this board and you can have that live on. And we've all heard of maybe the Helena Rubinstein Foundation, right? At the end of every PBS special, or the Carnegie Foundation, all these different foundations. These are where families thought a little bit ahead of time and put some of their wealth into a nonprofit that would then make certain investments so that it could grow and be a force in society, and also to get some things done that reflects that family's values. And this is available to average people now, just like building a larger company with a smaller staff because of technology and all these other things are available to people. This is simply a wealth strategy technology that can be used. And it's just a little bit obscure for most people to understand how it works. But once you understand how it works, you can see how it fits into the Chinese puzzle of planning your wealth strategy.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying that. Obscure for people. They don't know, right? They
Yeah.
don't really know that it happens. And I have definitely talked to people over the years who have interest in different things. Often, I think, because somebody in their family has some sort of a struggle, and so they can relate to that, or it's really personal to them, but never really knew where to direct them in terms of a nonprofit because they just thought it would be like a big hassle and would be expensive and take a long time. I didn't know that it was something that anybody could do.
Yeah, and like a lot of things, throughout the centuries, right, there are sort of guilds that say, well, we're the blacksmiths and we have secret arts and only our group can do this. And that's sort of been the case with the nonprofit industry. It's been run mostly by accountants and attorneys. And, an attorney's job is to look and see what can go wrong, right? Or pose all of the worst cases and all of the bad things that can happen. And the lawyers and accountants really aren't well suited necessarily to starting nonprofits. They're great at mitigating risk on the
Right.
part of lawyers, and accountants are great at, conforming to the tax code. And there are so many advantages to a 501c3. But as far as forming it, which is a series of applications and processes through the government, and then maintaining it, that's been the big impediment, because when you hire an attorney or a professional to do something like this, it's not something they do every day. And it's also a very complex interlocked set of processes that, some are in parallel at the same time. You can have one thing going while the other application's processing, and it's like dominoes, and one needs to precede the other one step. Well, this is all we do. So unlike other companies that you might have heard of, that do everything for everyone, from basic contract to employment to whatever, this is all we do. So we know exactly what the IRS is going to do. We even know what they're going to do if they randomly pull your file, for example, for a little bit of an extra inspection, which they do occasionally for anti-fraud purposes. We know what the outcome is that they're looking for, because many of these government processes are steeped in, they're cloaked a little bit. You don't know why they're putting you through the extra step. It's like when you go to get a permit for maybe building a shed in your backyard. You're going in there and you're completely at the mercy of that town, assessor's office or the planning department. And then they're throwing roadblocks that are you might not know about. But if this is all you do and you've done it thousands of times, you can kind of predict and preempt
Right.
most. So what we've done is take something that's mysterious and brought it out into the open. We explain exactly what you need to do for your board meeting, for example. Please throw away Robert's Rules of Order and follow our simple 9-step agenda, for example. Same thing with the tax status there and the tax policies. There might be 100 different pieces of minutia on the tax issue, right? If you really delve into it and you were to try to ask everything, you could have a 1,000-page book on it and still not know everything. But there are only 3 or 4 distinctions that you really need to understand in 90% of cases. So what we do is not only give you great deliverables with Instant Nonprofit and make it completely done for you and seamless to start the nonprofit, organize your paperwork, store it in the cloud, and train you on these things that you really do need to know. But we also help people. A lot of the impediment is when somebody can't picture themselves doing something, then they tend not to do it. And so if you could help people understand exactly what it would be like to go through that, it becomes much less scary, and people are able to go, well, I can do that. So we really deliver an awesome customer experience. How many times have you gotten onto a process like this and you feel a lot dumber, even if you're a very bright person, you feel a lot dumber at the end of it? Our processes make people feel smarter and empowered so that when they do that board meeting, they look like a pro to their friends or their colleagues who they've asked to be on the board. It doesn't take 3 hours. They didn't put people through a bunch of pain, and they actually come out and people go, wow, you must have done this a million times. You look like a pro. And little do they know that was simply us equipping them in the simple way that they need to go through some of these processes for themselves. And then we just put it on autopilot. We literally call the service autopilot. Once the nonprofit's formed, we keep that up and running and in good standing for small nonprofits, a few $100s a year. We've also brought the cost of all this way down so that this can be accessible. People can start one, they can know where it fits into their wealth strategy, and they can keep it maintained year after year with almost zero effort. So they can stay focused on that mission because almost all of us are giving in some way.
Right. Wow. I love how you have this whole system down, like the whole process. It's fantastic. And do you even have competitors? Like who else does what you do? I can't imagine anybody really.
Well, I like to think we don't have competitors. And if you've read the Blue Ocean, the book, the Blue Ocean
Sure.
or Category of One, providing a truly breakout great service or product, you do have to think about how can you absolutely eliminate the idea of competition so that there's not even
Right.
a and of course, I'm biased as the CEO and founder. I'm biased. I like to think that we've done that. But I think our 5-star reviews consistently from customers show that we've taken something, and they even say in their, a lot of testimonials you can kind of see are cut and paste. The people that talk about our service talk about giving up on their dream, maybe, right before they were just about to give up on their dream before they discovered us, or they've been harboring this thing and they tried with someone else, or they paid the retainer to an attorney. And when that retainer runs out and you don't have a result, guess what? Too bad. We guarantee a result. As a matter of fact, we have a 200% IRS approval guarantee. We get you approved or we pay double your money back. Now, thankfully, especially for my finance department, we've never had to do that. But it's just there to reassure people that we provide not only the deliverables, but such a great experience because we don't want to sell them the ab machine and have it go in the garage and they stay fat, right? We want to help them do this and then succeed with this thing because it brings so much more meaning to your life if you know that as you're working through your career and going up the corporate ladder as a W-2, or you're working on this business, that there's something truly meaningful that's coming out of it. And now we've made this so accessible that you can be growing and getting those reps in the gym of doing good right alongside of building wealth. You don't have to wait until you're rich because we've brought this down to $1,000 to $2,000 to start even a private family foundation, which a lot of your listeners might be interested
Yeah.
in. A family office or a family foundation fit into their strategy. And then you can be doing little things along the way. When you go to the silent auction, you can even name your nonprofit something similar to your business. And that would be something that would then, maybe you put foundation on the end of it. Well, when you do that, that reflects positively on your for-profit business, right? You're a telling people, you're explaining to people through your doing good that your business and you are good corporate stewards, right? You're good stewards of the community, and that when you do well, you'll give back. And people want to do business today with businesses and people whose values they reflect.
Sure.
When they click like on your podcast, for example, they're not saying they like you. They're saying they are like you. They have values that match yours. And so as people become more discerning and the choices are proliferating, right? You can go, there's multiple options for almost everything. Who are you going to do business with? You're going to do business with those people who reflect your values. And so if you have a nonprofit that is loosely associated with your business, then that can really help grow your business immensely.
Wow. Wow. So who's your like ideal client? Someone who's has that dream or never thought it would happen? Like, how do people find you and like who should be looking for you?
Really anyone who wants to make a difference in the world and thinks that maybe they would want a vehicle to do that through. Like I gave the example of the very small, the distribution of nonprofits in with our customer base and really in the world is a lot like the small business distribution. You've got a lot of little mom and pop, small 1 to 5 person LLCs at the bottom. And boy, study after study, right? You hear these stats. They represent the bulk of business in America, small businesses doing things that are finding a niche and a need in the market. It's the same thing with nonprofits, whether somebody is doing a beach cleanup just in their community at Redondo Beach or whatever, or even in a neighborhood. Sometimes there's a feral cat problem, and somebody says, well, I don't want these things just starving to death or being euthanized. I'm going to start to rehab them and find homes. That can be a very, very micro niche, and maybe that thing never grows into a big thing, but it makes such a difference in each life that it
Right.
touches. But we also have, and these are some of our. It's hard to say ideal customer, ideal,
Right.
type, because these are all sacred. It's a sacred trust to me that each of these, no matter how small they are. But boy, I sure love the exited tech entrepreneurs that come to us and say, well, I have this exit coming, and I've had this dream, or my wife and I have been thinking about, we went on the missions trip and we have this dream to help, kids in Haiti. Well, what if they could help 5,000 kids in Haiti instead of 50? Because they're not only provided this structure, but they're provided the love, encouragement, and a little bit of training so that this thing cannot be a burden on them, but be a blessing. And so people who are really effective in life and have maybe built a business before or run corporate teams really can be effective sometimes, right? Just because of having that background to launch this thing, have a vision, have either a Rolodex or just the will to go out and invite people to participate. And that's how I look at fundraising, whether you're funding it yourself through a family foundation and a business that's producing a profit, or you're out in the public just enrolling people in your vision. And I think you should do that whether or not you can fund it yourself. It's great to get public enrollment.
Right.
Um, it's important to be able to articulate to people what you're doing and get them involved, and then give them a bigger opportunity to participate in something that they otherwise wouldn't. So many of us, we're really good at our job, but we sit there and go, well, I just wish I could spend more time on things like a mission trip or, giving back. And often we discover these things completely by accident, what really lights us up. But when you find that thing, you have to sort of provoke that a little bit and give that some thought, because that can often lead to something that would really bring a lot of life to people and a lot of, good in the world. And God knows we need it. This world's kind of crazy, and people feel sometimes like they're losing autonomy over what the meaning of life is and what's going to happen with AI and the social situation with social media and all the division. The one thing that we have control of is that we can do something that shows people, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. I want to make a difference, and I'm going to step out and do this. And when you do that, you have no idea on the dozens of effects that you're going to have on many, many other people.
Yeah, I think I found that people that have the I don't know, best overall well-being are people that have a purpose and they're trying to help people. I feel like it's a great thing to reduce their own personal stress, And I feel like that the people that do that, I don't know, if somebody's got like some sort of real purpose, and that purpose involves helping people, I don't know. I just think they go about life like so differently and better. And just it's a great thing. And I love that you have a way to make it easier for people so they could concentrate on what they really need to do and not like the background paperwork or the hurdles that either the IRS or somebody else sticks up for them. So that's great.
All right, Christian, for high net worth individuals or families considering legacy planning, how can a family foundation or nonprofit play a role in creating a legacy that lasts for generations?
Well, there are really three ways that I consider that this can be part of a wealth strategy, because wealth isn't just money. It's the meaning that we create with that money. Like I said, people want to make money, but why is it? If you do the five whys, if you even get two whys in, it's usually so that that gives them access to something, experiences, family unity, right? Taking vacations with their family, and just having something that is that driving purpose, right? That you just referred to. And so what you what you can do is use this to rally, friends and family, enroll them into something exciting, and have more meaningful family connection by just picking a project. And you can do that democratically. Our company has a nonprofit, and so our team will vote on what we want to do with that, right? And so it's not my vision then, it's everyone's, and that really helps enroll everyone. Another thing that people can do is, you know, donating to charity, right, can keep things from being taxed at the estate level, which is, 50% estate tax. It's huge. So if somebody plans this well and works with their wealth manager, and we have more and more wealth managers and estate planning attorneys referring to us because if they put that into place, you know, I don't know if it was the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers, but they once said it's not about what you own, it's about what you control, right? And it's about what can you do with what you have. And that's why sometimes it might seem counterintuitive that these families put a lot of their wealth into trusts and nonprofits that they don't directly own, but they certainly get to go and think about really important problems they want to solve in the world, and then direct the resources that are under their control toward those things. And that's something that can be really compelling for a family or a community to get involved in. And we all need to find proactive ways to keep people engaged in community, because we're finding more and more separation and loneliness out there with everything being online. And so this can be a great way to rally your generations, future generations, into something that they can have some influence on and still do good. And certainly the taxation policies, the no corporate tax on the entity, and the tax deductibility are just two of several ways that this can work with trusts and other things to mitigate that estate tax at the end of life. But yeah, there are many ways that someone can incorporate this into their life and really create a richer life for themselves.
Beautifully said. All right. With so many giving options available, like donor advised funds or private foundations, how does someone know whether forming their own 501(c)(3) or tax exempt foundation is the right move?
Yeah, I mean, that's much of that decision is very personal, obviously, because we don't want to necessarily go out and duplicate exactly what someone else might be doing effectively. But there are probably at least three different ways that people might want to consider, a decision matrix, right? A decision tree about this. First of all, um, figuring out what it is brings us joy and makes us passionate, right? And like I mentioned, beach cleanup or animals or sometimes social causes, right? Or if you have technology gifts, some people are starting nonprofits to help create apps that actually enrich people's lives and they're not just kind of the dopamine extraction industry. So there's that piece of it. Another decision point would be whether somebody else is doing exactly what you would think would be a service to the world in the way that you want to do it. So many times when we have discovery calls, people call us and book a strategy call just to talk about their idea, and we love that. And they say, well, I volunteered for this organization, but I just see that organization has been around for a long time. They're not very effective. Everybody wants to, talk about doing things and not necessarily do them in the right way. And so sometimes you just say, I think I could do this better. And just like we've seen Uber come along, whether you're a fan of Uber itself or Lyft or whatever, and disrupt the taxi industry, we have such an opportunity now to do things more effectively, more efficiently, and get the benefit directly to the person. So there's no taxi company or taxi dispatch person between me and my Uber, or I just took my first autonomous robot-driven Waymo in Austin. Just did that today. Kind of scary, kind of awesome. I was trying to talk to the robot and ask it how its day was, and there was nothing in the driver's seat. It was crazy. But just like Uber and Waymo are disrupting taxis, a nonprofit can come along out of nowhere and leverage some of these technologies and connecting tools that we have and bring people direct benefit in a way that isn't being done right now. So that's another part of your decision tree is what I want to do being done in the way that I want to do it. And I would say the third way that people can consider is often what we want to do has a geographic limitation, right? The feral cat rescue, that's a neighborhood thing. You're not going to do that in Sacramento if you're in Boston. But you can consider in your micro market, right? Is this something you can try out? And is it something that can just serve in the local area? Because these blocks and these schools and these parks, right? Whether kids here need another playground that you might want to raise the money for, or some things that we used to count on in society have just gone away. Maybe schools are cutting with art programs, et cetera, and you have an art studio. Well, we've started a wonderful art studio out in California that brings people in and teaches them, Bob Ross, right? Teaches them how to paint and how to create things. And they are booming. And now they're getting city grants. And these artists are not only able to do their art and sell their art and do what they would normally do, but now they have these steady classes where they're able to bring in money. They can get paid certainly for that, and everyone should get paid for what they do. We talk about that stuff all the time with people because, yes, you can start a nonprofit, sit on the board, and get paid to run it. That is a dream of many people, to leave their corporate job or get back into the workforce after retirement and say, well, how can I bring my unique gift to the world? And so those are three ways that I would say people can sort of evaluate whether this is for them. And then as far as the mechanics and the process of formation, any questions that somebody might have, we have a wonderful gift for your listeners, just completely free, no obligation, but it walks you through what do I need to know before I start a nonprofit, and how do I consider whether this might be something for me? So I can tell you where that URL is. And then also, we love to talk to people about their ideas. It gives us life to help them, even if it's a year or two out from executing, help people formulate and crystallize their ideas to make a difference in the world. That is our mission as a company. And it's wonderful to think that out of these thousands and thousands of people that we're helping, there are going to be some projects, whether it helps one life in your community or thousands and thousands on a global project. We're actually changing the trajectory of history every day by just empowering people.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling to me. That the leverage there, like you're helping more than 5,000 other people help people, right? That's really pretty cool. I love that way of looking at it or thinking about it. That must have you get up in the morning. I love that.
It does. It does. Forgive me for my zeal, but I have to admit, it's a pretty wonderful thing to get up to do. And we've really built a culture of love inside the company too. I believe, like Simon Sinek says, in Leaders Eat Last. He also wrote Start With Why, really famous consultant on organizational leadership. If you take care of your staff, if you take care of your family, they're going to take care of the community. If you take care of your staff, they'll take care of the customers. And then, things can be less policy driven and more organically just helpful to people. And we really have built that culture here. And so everyone at the company gets to be excited. We really invest in each other and get to know each other, even though it's a virtual team. And I'm really excited that a few of our people are in from overseas, because sometimes you work with people in Pakistan, as we have, or the Philippines or Europe, and you don't ever get to meet face to face. So I'm excited that a few of our people happen to be in the States at the same time, and we're going to get together. But either way, we have to really work to break down walls and be vulnerable, right? The leaders have to be vulnerable. And then people see, hey, this is a safe space and I can let my hair down a little bit and be real. And then that is where people really get to know and trust each other and love each other. And I believe that spills out into the world if you can foster that.
Love it. Love it.
All right. After working with thousands of mission-driven founders and families, what's the biggest lesson you've learned about building wealth with purpose and creating impact that endures?
What's the biggest lesson?
Yes.
I would say the biggest lesson that I've learned, and this goes right along with personal development and all of the work, as they call it, is to learn to be comfortable executing imperfectly. So often we're worried about what people might say or think, and especially where do we start when we have an idea like starting a nonprofit? We usually go to family and friends, and they know us best, and sometimes they can be really helpful, and sometimes you get the eye roll and it's like, oh, another idea of yours. Well, great. Right. So you have to be willing to execute imperfectly, because getting out there and helping, if you just have this passion for animals and you manage to find someone, a connection, right, with an animal that maybe is at we have a local nonprofit right around the corner from our office, and every day we see volunteers walking the dogs, right? And so if I could take one or two of those animals and just match them up to people in my network on Facebook, or by having people visit, and then start, a lot of people start doing things that way, and then they scale that, right? And they start getting more people and just trying it. So at first, the first few people you ask, you might be like, "Are you crazy?" That's the last thing you need to do, right? Is busy people volunteering to do something like this. But once you make that connection and you execute that imperfectly, and you get over those maybe rejections at the beginning, then you're going to see the real needs. So many people start a business or start a nonprofit, and they're like, 3M with the Post-it. 3M probably didn't start out to make glue that didn't work, but we're all glad we can take that Post-it off once we put it on the wall, because we've all done the tape method and that doesn't work. So if you're going to invent glue, and then you might find that your glue doesn't work, but it serves another purpose. And that's so true with nonprofits as well, and especially things that have meaning to you. You've got to just try and get out there and talk to people and try to meet a need. And you're going to find inside that need that maybe the village in Africa doesn't need another well drilled, but they need a filtration system. And like my friend Terrence, recently I talked to, and he goes into Mexico, into these remote villages, and he thought they needed water, but what they needed was a simple 5-gallon bucket that had a filtration system in it that could be delivered for less than $5 per household in the village. These people are in huts, they're burning wood, and the two things they need is smoke filtration, because they're burning wood to cook inside their hut and getting lung disease, and then their water isn't clean. And he found a way to deliver these simple 5-gallon bucket self-contained units that's literally saving their kids' lives. And at first he thought they needed water, but what they just really needed was these filters. And now he's able to go in a Jeep, and clear brush, and get things out of the way, get out to these places. And they are so thankful, because such a simple thing is delivering them and their generations to come life while they go about their daily business. And that's really cool when someone is not only willing to do something great, but willing to take feedback from essentially the marketplace and then make that adjustment. Because once you're in touch with people that have this need, you can really learn about them and empathize and listen and find out something that really could be groundbreaking.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome. All right. Where can our listeners learn more about Instant Nonprofit and connect with you to explore starting their own foundation or charitable entity?
Absolutely. They can go to www.instantnonprofit.com/podcast. And there they can get a free boot camp. I'm sorry, it's not a boot camp. That sounds like work, right? A free starter kit. And that startup kit is going to have lessons and little exercises on the 10 things people need to start their nonprofit. Well, how would I name this nonprofit? We have a simple 4-step framework. How do I come up with a mission, and how formal do I even need to make that mission? Well, the answer is not that formal. And we have a simple process where you can reduce any mission into one clear sentence with 3 clauses. And if you deliver that to anyone, you'll get instant feedback on because it's so crystal clear. And like my favorite author, Mark Twain, one of my favorites, once said, I sat down to write a short letter, but I didn't have time, so I wrote a long one instead. Right? It's easier to say a lot of words to say that one thing that could be said in a short way. So we've come up with a bunch of little exercises that people can do that take these complex ideas, boil them down into something simple. So at the end of it, they can say, this is something for me, or I'd like to explore further. And then they can book a call. And that is all at instantnonprofit.com/podcast.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Great, great. Well, I really appreciate having me on and being able to talk about these things. And like I said, people can reach out to us on social. They can seek me out, Christian LeFer. I love to talk to people about these ideas and develop them. And then we can talk about the more subtle nuances of wealth strategy and how this can impact their taxes. But the why is what we have to start with. And I am so happy to be able to talk about this with you today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Awesome. For more information on Yardley Wealth Management or Yardley Estate Planning, you can visit our websites at yardleywealth.net and yardleyestate.net. You can also follow us on socials at Yardley Wealth Management. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This podcast has been produced by Madison Demora and Mike Gary with technical and artistic help from Poe Productions.